you bulk or cut first? The age-old question, the continuous debate where you end up eating too many calories, going way too big into a calorie surplus, gaining too much body fat, then reversing out, going into another cut, then worried that you're not getting big enough, and then just yo-yoing between the two phases. Now, to avoid this and to commit properly to each phase is where you're going to see the most progress. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining how to determine whether to bulk or cut first, and some simple tips to apply to make sure that you make the most of each phase. It is a good question to ask yourself if you're unsure whether to bulk or cut first. Am I comfortable gaining more body fat than I currently have? Because if the answer is a hard no, it's not a soft no, it's a hard no, then you have to cut first. Because in my experience, coaching and also in my own training experience, if you're committing to a bulking phase, you need to fully commit long-term over a period of months and be accepting that you are going to gain a little bit of body fat in the process. Because even if you do a bulking phase 100% correct and you are gaining weight really slow and steady, you're still going to gain a bit of body fat in the process. So if you go into it half-hearted, not happy with your body fat levels, that is when you are going to just yo-yo between the two phases. So my advice is usually to do a cut first, and I've seen that with clients and myself. So going back to when I first did my first bulk, I did it far too quickly. My calories are way too high, and I'm sure we've all been there, just justifying eating more food, saying, oh, but I'm bulking, so it's fine, don't need to do my cardio. The problem with this was when I was not doing my cardio and my calories are way too high, I gained body fat too quickly. So I gained quite a bit of strength and my lifts were going up really quickly. But each bulk that I did progressively, I got better at being more disciplined with the food and maintaining cardio and a good step count, so that my calorie burn was high enough to offset some of the food. And that means you're in a smaller calorie surplus and you're not going to gain as much body fat. If you are watching this and you're already very lean, or you are skinny and you don't have much body fat, I think it's safe to say that going into a small calorie surplus and a bulk is probably the way to go for you. Because what is the point in spending your life miserable in a cutting phase with less flexibility on your diet, energy levels are lower, your training's not as enjoyable? There's no point spending your entire year in a deficit. That's a one-way ticket to not making as much progress in the gym, not enjoying your training, feeling demotivated, and then eventually probably stopping the gym. So you don't want to be spending all of your year in a calorie deficit. And if you're already lean and quite skinny and you want to just prioritize building muscle, I would then approach it that way and start with a bulk first. If you start with a cut, how long should you cut for? I would cut until you are comfortable with your body fat levels. So cut down for men probably to low teens body fat ideally, but you could start a bulk around 15% body fat if you want to and you don't mind going up to higher body fat levels. It's really going to come down to personal preference on this, but coming down to lower teens body fat to anywhere in that 12 to 15% body fat range would be a great starting point for bulk, because most people don't really have a good indication of body fat percentages anyway. 10% is very lean for most people, and you're probably going to have to start restricting more of your lifestyle and eating out and having a drink here and there. So it's going to be more maintainable for most people to do 12 to 15% body fat to stay lean, and you would look very lean at that level of body fat with some muscle mass built. Then on a bulk, you probably want to push up to the point where you're still within healthy body fat ranges. So for men, we're looking at 20 to 25% body fat. I think when I got to in the 20% body fat, I felt more uncomfortable with my facial shape changing. I went from, I had a much wider face, and you'll know that set point for you where you feel uncomfortable. So it'll be different for every person, but you will get to a point on your bulk where you're either unhappy with the amount of body fat you're carrying on your sides, the amount that you have on your face, and you're maybe less confident with your appearance at that point. That is probably a good indication of you needing to go back into a cutting phase and then going back down to a point where you're happy with your body fat levels before you transition to the bulk. Can't give you an exact percentage of this, but I would say somewhere at around 20 to 25% body fat for men, because it's the top end of that healthy body fat range. the more muscle mass you have, the better you're going to look at a higher body fat percentage. So if you spend a long time building muscle in a calorie surplus, a small calorie surplus, and you build a good amount of muscle, then when you are getting up to that sort of 20% body fat range, you're going to look better than if you get to that body fat level without that muscle mass built. So start a cut if you're unhappy with your body fat levels. If you are fine with your body fat levels, already quite lean, start with a bulk, and then transitioning between the two should be nice and slow. So going into a small calorie surplus when we're bulking, because you don't need a huge surplus of calories to get that improved gym performance. And when you're going into a cut, start at around a 500 calorie deficit per day. Increase your step count and your cardio, get the activity levels up, focus on that, and then just doing the minimum in the gym to maintain the weights lifted and to maintain your strength, which will keep your muscle. And that way you strip the body fat off during the cutting phase, and on the bulking phase you are minimizing fat gain as much as possible. If you found this video useful, hit like and subscribe for more simple fat loss and muscle building tips, and I'll see you on the next video.